This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
Ed Roland from Collective Soul is with us in the studio. They have a new album. It's called Vibrating. The 11th studio album comes out this week, the 12th of August. The band is on tour now. All the info, collectivesoul.com. The band has multiple number one singles over the years. You know them all. But, Ed, I think this year, 2022, give or take, is that 30 years?
Give or take, 28 for sure. Yeah, 28.
And you know,
I'm publicly schooled from the state of Georgia, so you got to give me a second on the mathematics here. But it is 28 years.
Yeah. But I think you formed in 92 or something.
93, end of 93, we did our first show.
Yeah, so give or take, it's 30 years. And, you know, on my radio journey here in the New York City tri-state area, I have played Collective Soul songs, or hits, I should say, on 3 different radio stations. One in Long Island, one in New Jersey, one in New York City. But 30 years, that's a long time for a band. It's a long time for a marriage. But talk about how long you guys have been doing this. It's sort of like, you know, I talk to other bands and artists like, why would you ever retire from a job like this? You know, aside from like a serious health issue. I mean, you have the best job in the world.
Well, I tell my wife that quite often. She asks, will you ever retire? And I go, explain retirement to me. Define retirement. You travel, you meet interesting people, you see great, beautiful places, the landscape. You do what you love. You have a hobby. So I retired at 14.
Yeah, fantastic.
I love it.
How has the tour been going? I think you're on tour with some good friends of ours, Switchfoot, right?
Yeah. It's been amazing. Actually, Tim's son got on stage and played with us last night. The bass player, brother Tim.
Yeah.
His son is out, Jet, and he came on and played December with us.
Is he good?
Yeah.
So he totally nails it like no problem.
He runs. It runs in that family. I think those brothers and that whole family, they're just talented cats.
Well, I saw something you did, I guess, mid-tour with John Foreman of the band. You guys were just sitting in front of some cameras and microphones. He had a guitar. You had you were just hanging out.
He had a mandolin, and I had a piano, and I was like, hey, check this out. Like, and that's the tour that this is. Like, everybody's just natural. You know, humble, no ego, like, and you know, John loves to write as I do too. So I was like, hey, check this out. So I started playing. So he came over with the mandolin. He's like, okay, let's work on this. You know, it's just what you're supposed to do on tour, is the way I look at it, you know?
Yeah. I want to get to the new album, but for the live shows, you now have, and correct me if I'm wrong, 11 albums worth of material to choose from when you're coming up with a set list. Is that like a painstaking process, or is it easy to do now?
It's tough when you're doing like a co-headlining, you know, because you're only allowed a certain amount of time. And
yeah.
You know, we're not Springsteen. We don't get the whole night, you know.
4.5 hours.
Yeah. So, which is, you got to play the songs that got you on that stage, that people put you on that stage for. So, and then we try to manipulate, I like to use, you know, the newer material in there. And then on this tour, like I said, I'm constantly writing. We have 2 records in the can after this one.
Oh, man.
And then we're going to record in January another record. So we just stay ahead of the game, and I'm always writing, recording. And like I've always said, like it's a strange rock and roll band. We actually like each other and enjoy each other's company. So when I call the boys up and I'm like, hey, man, I wrote some songs, they're like, when are we going to record? So we just we find a house and rent a house and go somewhere and record.
I love it. The new album, Vibrating, does indeed vibrate. I listened to the whole thing last night. And if there's such a thing, dare I say, as classic or vintage Collective Soul sound, I mean, this is it. The big hooky guitar riffs are everywhere. The big choruses, there are even strings on this album. Did you guys just quarantine and sort of woodshed these songs during the pandemic, or were they sort of written before and now? Or
it was actually written and recorded before the pandemic. It was supposed to come out 2 years ago, and then the pandemic happened. But no, like I said, I call the guys. I'm like, I got like 12, 15 songs. They fly in. This Vibrating we did at my house. We like recording in homes. It's kind of a weird thing for us and this is the last one we did at my house. We set the drums up, horseshoe around Johnny, our drummer, and, you know, we usually start at 11 in the morning, break for bread, lunch, and then by 5 o'clock it's done.
Wow.
It's just
Well, it's like songs from the Big Pink. That's what they did way back in the day with the band, like.
yeah, and it's and I love seeing this spontaneity of them hearing the song the first time and then them kind of going. I call it they put their fairy dust on there,
Right.
with me just sitting playing an acoustic guitar with a song, and they're like, "Hold on, I can do this, I can do this," but it doesn't take. Once we get it, we'll probably rehearse for an hour the song just so everybody's kind of comfortable with the arrangement, and then we do 5 takes maybe, and then it's done.
Fantastic. You're based in Atlanta and Georgia in general. Such a rich history of music going back a really long time. And more recently, we got the Black Crowes, Mastodon, Blackberry Smoke, all, of course, Chuck Level, first with the Allman Brothers, now the Stones forever. It's interesting, when the world first heard about Collective Soul, when I first heard about Collective Soul, weren't we right smack dab in the middle of grunge?
We were.
Which,
yeah.
and I didn't consider you guys grunge.
Well, we didn't either, and it was the first record was a collection of songs I made in a basement. It wasn't a band. It was me with a drum machine and sometimes me playing drums horribly. I was trying to get a publishing deal, and I would still send songs out to anybody, publishers, radio stations, record companies, and then Album 88 in Atlanta started playing Shine, and they called and said, "We want you to do a show." I didn't have a band. My brother was in a band. Collective Soul was actually, without me, we're doing like frat shows.
Right, okay.
And I just called my brother and it's like, "Hey, can we learn like 4 of my songs and, let me sing?" And they're like, "Cool." And the show, we did a Christmas show, 93, so I'm going back in my...
Yeah.
And it sold out, and it was the number 1 requested song on Album 88. Then it got to commercial radio stations, JR in Orlando. Then it just kind of went bizarre at that point, But yeah, we've been catching up on songs our whole career, I feel like,
Well, that story, because I read about Shine, and I don't think a lot of people know what actually happened. You kind of went into it right there, but you sort of share this sort of experience with Tom Scholz of Boston. He made that first Boston album in his basement. And then things just sort of took off from there.
Right. His sounded better, though.
Well, yeah, okay. Fine. He went to MIT, whatever, but it's amazing that that happened all within 3 or 4 months. You're making demos, and all of a sudden you're playing Woodstock and you're touring with Aerosmith, and Shine is the #1 video on MTV, and it's like #1 rock song in America.
Yeah, it was what do they call it? Tell it to best of times, worst of times. Like we just didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Like it was just
Tornado, hurricane.
Right. Like
Yeah.
we didn't even know where they put a tour together, and we just wake up the next morning, and this was before phones, and they would just go, "You're playing here. You're playing here." I mean, we were just gone.
Right.
And I had gotten engaged before all that happened, and of course the engagement didn't last too long. Once you're out there like that, it was like, well, I don't know where I am. Couldn't get in touch with me.
Right.
I couldn't get in touch with her. It was just
Did
a
you ever
different time.
say hello Cleveland and you weren't in Cleveland? Or
I have never done that.
Good for you.
I have never done that. That part, yeah. Girlfriends' names, yeah, maybe, but towns, no.
Ed Roland, Collective Soul, is with us. The new album, Vibrating, comes out this week, the 12th of August. I know you loved hearing Elton John's greatest hits as a boy, but aside from that, growing up, do you remember the moment when the magic, hit you? Were you in high school? Did you hear a certain band? Maybe it was when you first learned to play your favorite song on guitar. When was when did the lightning bolt hit you and you're like, "Oh my God, I want to do this"?
I think the storm was always brewing because my dad was a minister of music. He was operatic trained. He was supposed to go sing opera in Italy, but then him and God had a talk, and he became a minister.
Uh-huh.
So my mom played piano in church. So the storm was always brewing, but it really did come down to, and we always had gospel music and and I remember like my earliest memories, Jungle Book. I love that, Bare Necessities, just simple things like that. But the first time that it really struck me was Elton John's greatest hits. I just put it, and I just said, I want to write songs like him and Bernie. Like, I just want to be a songwriter. It was that simple.
Yeah. I know that you attended Berklee College of Music in Boston for a while, and I'm wondering, because I did not see this movie when it first came out. It came out in 2014, but did you ever see the movie Whiplash?
I did.
Yeah. So tell me, is that kind of similar to
No, it was nothing like that.
Not
me.
with like the crazy instructor or anything.
No.
But
It was to me, when I went there, it was more of a innocent Southern boy going to a big city. Small town boy going to a big city. I learned more about life than I did music, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When I was there, and which I think most college kids do anyway. But just being an innocent little preacher's kid going to Boston, it was. Going to the Rat, the Channel, and seeing these crazy bands back then, that whole punk movement, new wave, they were mixing it up there in Boston. It was just exciting for me. And I love Berklee. They were great, but I learned more life and lifestyle, than I did. I'm still not that technical of a guitar player or vocalist or anything like that. I am whatever God made me, whatever it is. But there were some serious cats there, and I would sit there and watch them play. I'm like, whoa, I'm never getting there. So let me try the next trick. Let me go try to write songs.
Ed Roland from Collective Soul is with us. The new album is called Vibrating, and it's coming out this week, the 12th of August. I want to play Cut the Cord from the new album. When I saw it as a killer jam, first of all, I love the song.
Thank you.
When I first saw the title, I thought, oh, Ed Roland's given up his cable TV. I don't think that's what it's about, though.
It's not. It's funny how age treats you. 30 years ago, you write about chicks and things like that. Girls, probably not the correct thing to say nowadays. I've just probably got woke. But, in life, you get married and have kids, and it's about my 18-year-old boy going off to college. It was just cutting the cord. It's time to go do your gig, man. And I know he loves me sometimes not, whatever. But it was just cutting the cord, time to go.
That is a moment for sure as a parent. I'm sure it's just, so waving goodbye and, hey, listen, thank you so much for stopping by. We love the album. We love Collective Soul here at Q104.3. And it's a pleasure to meet you. And please come back anytime.
Thank you so much. It's so kind of you. Thank you.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q104.3.